When I look back now, it almost feels surreal how something as ordinary as a couch changed the course of my life forever. It was never about the couch itself, of course. It was about what it brought into my world, someone I never expected, someone who would alter my definition of love, comfort, and companionship. His name was Ryan, and though at first he was just a kind stranger offering help, he became everything I never knew I needed. The story began one chilly afternoon in late November. I had just moved into a new apartment after leaving behind a long and complicated chapter of my life. My past relationship with Mark had drained me in ways I couldn't fully put into words. It wasn't explosive, it wasn't full of screaming arguments, it was emptier than that. It was silence. It was distance. It was two people living parallel lives without ever truly intersecting anymore. Leaving wasn't easy, but I knew I needed to rebuild myself, piece by piece, and moving into my own place was the first step. The apartment was small, with creaky floors and windows that didn't quite close all the way, but it felt like mine. I was determined to make it warm, cozy, and filled with life. That's why I spent weeks scouring furniture shops, thrift stores, and online listings. And that's when I saw it, an oversized couch that was big enough to curl up in with a blanket, a book, and maybe a cup of hot cocoa on a winter night. The problem was, it was way too big for me to move alone. That morning, as I struggled to maneuver the massive couch out of the delivery truck and up the stairs of my building, frustration was painted all over my face. The delivery guys had dropped it off on the curb, shrugging when I asked if they could carry it upstairs. I tugged and pushed, but the couch barely budged. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "Need a hand with that?" I turned around and saw him, Ryan. He lived in the same building, a few floors above mine. I had seen him in passing once or twice, usually with headphones around his neck and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, but I never paid much attention. That day, though, I noticed his easy smile and the way he seemed completely unbothered by the cold wind. Honestly? Yes, I admitted, brushing a strand of hair out of my face. This thing is impossible. Ryan chuckled and set his coffee cup down on the stairs. Well, good thing you've got me. I grew up with 3 brothers. I've been moving furniture my whole life. Together, we wrestled the couch up the narrow staircase. I lost my balance more than once, and each time, Ryan was there to steady the weight or catch me before I stumbled. His laugh was warm and infectious, turning what should have been a frustrating ordeal into something unexpectedly fun. By the time we managed to wedge the couch through my apartment door, we were both out of breath and laughing. "Mission accomplished," he said, plopping down dramatically on the couch the second it hit the living room floor. I stood there, my hands on my hips, shaking my head. "You can't just sit on it after all that." "Why not?" he teased. "I think I earned it." That was the first real conversation we had, but it wouldn't be the last. Over the next few weeks, Ryan and I seemed to bump into each other constantly. Sometimes it was in the mailroom, sometimes it was at the corner coffee shop, and other times it was just passing in the hallway. Each time, our conversations grew a little longer, a little more personal. He asked me about my new apartment, about how I was settling in, and eventually about why I had moved. I didn't share everything at first. The wounds from my last relationship were still tender, and I wasn't sure how much of myself I wanted to reveal. But Ryan had this way of listening, really listening. He didn't rush me, didn't press for details. He just offered a quiet understanding that felt rare. One snowy evening in December, I invited him over for the first time. It wasn't planned. I had baked a batch of cookies, something I did when I was restless, and when I saw him coming in from the cold, dusting snow off his jacket, I impulsively called out, "Hey, want a cookie?" He grinned. "That's the best offer I've had all day." We sat on that very couch, eating cookies and talking for hours. He told me about his job as a graphic designer, about his love for hiking, and how he once got lost in the woods for 3 hours because he refused to admit he'd taken the wrong trail. I laughed so hard I had tears in my eyes. That couch became our spot. Sometimes we'd watch old movies, sometimes we'd share takeout, and other times we'd just talk about everything and nothing. I started to realize that the emptiness I had felt before, the loneliness, the sense that something was missing, was slowly being filled, not with grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but with these simple, everyday moments. It wasn't love at first sight. It was love built quietly, piece by piece, like the way a song lingers in your head long after you've heard it. Ryan never tried to fix me or rush me into anything. He just showed up, over and over, until his presence became a steady part of my life. The real turning point came on New Year's Eve. I hadn't planned anything big, just a quiet night with a movie and maybe a glass of wine. But Ryan showed up at my door with 2 mugs of hot chocolate and a smile. I figured it'd be better to ring in the new year with company, he said. We ended up on the couch, of course, watching fireworks from the window. When midnight struck, he didn't make a big move. He didn't lean in dramatically or try to sweep me off my feet. Instead, he looked at me and said, "I'm really glad I met you." And for the first time in a long time, I believed that someone meant it. That night, as the world outside celebrated, I realized the couch had been just the beginning. What I had found in Ryan was far more than a neighbor, far more than a friend. He was patient when I needed patience, steady when I felt unsteady, and full of light when I felt surrounded by shadows. Little by little, I let my guard down. Little by little, I let love back in. And with Ryan, it felt safe. It felt real. The couch may have brought us together, but he became everything I never knew I needed.